Well, that's nice to know. How do you value people that aren't in your organization? Anybody?
Truthful
By
and honest.
delivering value to them, or
Okay, truthful and honest.
yeah, meet their needs,
Yeah,
address their needs,
yeah, solve the problem.
solve their problems. Exactly.
Actually, it should requalify that. It's solving the problem or helping them pursue the opportunity.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah, trust.
Yeah, an environment of trust. At the beginning of this call, we were talking about the clouds, or the smoke clouds that we're all being inundated with all across Canada. So when we value people, we also need to respect the environment. Maybe live by some laws, right? Because it's not just enough to be about the people in your organization. It's got to be the outside people too, right?
Yes.
All right. So now I'm just going to take this Post-it note off and open up exercise number 2. What does it mean to live by values?
Solid ethic principles.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me?
Solid ethic principles.
Okay. Anybody else?
Meet your commitments.
Ooh, I like that one. Now it's interesting. If we were doing this all together in a big room, you could meeting commitments kind of sits up somewhere in the middle of those, doesn't it? It's kind of that cross section between valuing people and living by values is meeting commitments, right? So not everything fits neatly on one corner. Sometimes they fit nicely at the points. What other things do we do when we live by values?
Have
Curious.
integrity.
Be curious, yeah. What else?
We are well, we feel good.
Do what you say and say what you do. Or vice versa. What is it there? Transparency. Yeah.
Transparency. I think you're tapping into something here from the Scrum Guide. What are some of the values that we would live by? Transparency is one. Practicing what you preach. Do what you say. Anything else?
Like you want to be treated.
Yeah, I think they call that the golden rule, right? I won't I'll be a good facilitator and I will not paraphrase you. Yeah. Really, really good ideas. Now I'm just going to grab that word picture that we made. And I'm just going to look quickly at what we defined as what it meant to deliver value. Just move these a little bit. So we had this great world delivering value, goals with some purpose, clients' business needs, benefit to society. Yeah, that's valuing people too, right? That one could sit nicely at that corner of living by values. Solving a problem, time saving, purpose, profit, value, useful, customers, help, improving, leadership, efficiency, sustainability. That's a big one in terms of the living by values, right? Sustainability is a big value. So you already touched on quite a few of these. I'm just going to ask, did you find it? So see how much more though we got when we took it out to the three sides. We all have an idea of what value is, but it really is in the eyes of the customer. So I'm just going to ask us to pull out a little bit so that we move back, so that we're looking at the pink. So in discussion number 2, what actions or causes happen that cause this valuing people side to get shorter? Anybody? What makes this side short? This value people. What are things we do that keep us from valuing people?
Deadlines.
Okay. Yep, deadlines, unrealistic deadlines. What else do we do? There might, go ahead.
Unrealistic expectations on projects.
Yep. What else?
Not.
And if there are mistakes? What do we do when people make mistakes? If we really want to show them we don't value them.
Yeah.
Blaming culture.
I heard the chuckle, but I didn't hear the answer.
We don't facilitate resources for them to do their job. So that's somehow like devaluing
Yep.
time, their time, expecting them to get the resources, and we don't make it easy for them to tell them where they should get it, at least,
Yeah, not making it easy to find resources. I want you to think right now of every boss that made you feel unvalued as a person. Oh, come on. Everybody's got a horror story.
They have too many.
They do not recognize the work, the heavy work, the hard work, effort, yeah. Consistency. Tell me about it.
I heard another one there.
Go.
Sorry, I'm still having a trouble hearing you in the room. How about blame? Anybody taking a lot of blame for mistakes? What are some of the phrases we hear from a manager who's always blaming?
Your fault. Fix it.
Okay, so finger pointing, yeah. Your fault. And what if you experiment? What did some bad bosses say when you start to experiment on things?
Don't waste your time.
Yeah, don't waste your time. How many have heard if this doesn't work, heads will roll? Phrases like one throat to choke.
Oh, I've never heard that one, but.
Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones. How do you feel when people micromanage you? Do you feel valued?
No.
Not letting in new ideas.
Ooh, that's a big one. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Insecurity.
I'm still not getting it.
Insecurity.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, that was clear. I got that one. Yeah, so there's lots of them here. What happens to our ability to deliver value if the inside of the triangle is the value and we shorten that people side? Oh, that's a triangle, so I can't change the side of it. But if I shortened that people side and I made it not an equilateral triangle, but we still live by values. We're trying to deliver value, but we valued our people. What's going to happen to our product and our company? What's the impact?
Leave.
Retention issues, layoffs, unengaged workforce, burnout,
Burnout, yeah.
stress.
Ooh, I got to get.
Slow quitting.
Yeah. Okay. Let me find some pink ones. Okay. Slow quitting. The company profits suffer, right? I got a couple that are lopsided here. Profits. What do you think it's going to do to the quality of your product?
Just said.
Degrade. Get worse.
Yeah, less product quality. Okay, so don't seem to want to move from there. We go. And if everybody's standing around the water cooler bitching about what's going on in the company and how awful, how it's not as good as it used to be, What's going to happen to your productivity?
Goes down.
Yeah.
Low morale.
That's that you were reading my mind, my friend. Anything else? Any other impacts you're going to have when you shorten up that side?
Cost more.
I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Will cost more.
Yeah. Increased cost of production. What do people do when they're unhappy and they don't feel valued at work and they're starting to burn out?
People leave.
They leave. What else do they do? Before they leave, what do they do?
Well, they can be. Go ahead.
It becomes a toxic environment.
Yeah, it becomes a toxic environment. People stop showing up to work. They call in sick, right?
When they make mistakes, they produce defects.
Ah, interesting. So big impact when we shorten up that side. Let's go over to the other side and when we don't live by values, what happens? What causes, sorry, ask the questions in the wrong order. What causes the live by value side to be shortened? What activities happen when we're not living our values?
Depression,
I'm sorry, I missed that one.
depression, anxiety.
Yep. I get frustrated when I'm asked to live outside of my values. How do you feel when people ask you to do things that aren't in your value set?
I feel betrayed.
Things on the other side, you complain, you might not show up for work.
Unmotivated.
What sorts of things do corporations do when the corporation isn't living to their values?
Fragment,
I missed that one, I'm sorry.
fragment,
They fragment, yeah. What are some activities that companies do that show that they're not living by their values?
Playing in the dark side
So
of business.
I'll give you an example of polluting the environment.
Treating staff like they're replaceable.
I'm going to say also when you look at if they're strictly shareholder driven, they may not be respecting their people. That one kind of sits up at the top of the triangle. Up here. I don't know about you, but I've been involved in a few companies that were stockholder driven. And when they were stockholder driven, they offshored a lot of jobs to lower priced environments. I was with Bell when they offshored to India. We see a lot of tech jobs offshored to India and the Philippines. What else do we see when companies don't live by values? What other sorts of activities do they do?
Illegal ones.
Sorry?
Break the law.
Yeah. What else do they do?
Do tax evasion.
I put in sketchy accounting, but yeah, tax evasion. They may resist doing recalls.
Avoid to be accountable using bad practice to do it.
Yeah, not my fault.
Exactly.
I like that one, that not accountability.
Advertising false information.
Yeah, that's a big one. Anybody else got any ideas here? All right, what's the impact of this?
Company could lose face. Gain a bad reputation.
Yep.
Investors can pull out.
Investors pull out.
Market share. Loss of market share.
Loss of market share. What else happens? I think I missed one at the front end of this conversation.
There's some good ones in the chat too. I don't know if you can see the chat, but
Let me go back. Somebody want to call them out of the chat for me?
blame, mass layoffs, undead/zombie corpse, vaporware, bloatware, defects and deficiencies, regulatory penalties.
Okay. I'm going to put product efficiencies to cover a lot of those ones. Fines, regulatory penalties. Would you stay being their customer?
No?
No, you're not. All right, that's the depressing side of the equation. So when we shrink any of those sides, this kind of proves my theory that even if the other two sides are still really big, the area inside the triangle which is your value, declines. It's just going to get smaller. There's just not much to go around across everybody. That's kind of depressing. So let's now pull out to the green side of things. And I'm going to go over again. Oh, sorry. What causes the delivery value to be short? Delivery side to be shortened, and what is the impact? And I think every one of these ones kind of fits into when you stop delivering value, you're going to see a lot of the impact. You know, it impacts your customers, it's going to impact your shareholders and your stakeholders, and you're going to see a downward slide. So let's look at the upside of this. If shrinking at any one of the sides is going to decrease your value, and if you shrink all the sides, that triangle gets really small and you're not delivering much value or much profit. Let's look at it from the discussion 4, which is how can we get the triangle to grow? So I'll take whatever you yell out to me. We're going to do this as one big exercise. It can be, so yell something out, and as I do the Post-it note, you can tell me where you want me to put that Post-it note. How do we grow this triangle?
You can grow the triangle by growing any side of it.
Okay. You want to pick a side and tell me how you'd grow it?
You can value people more by engaging more with them and listening to their perspectives more.
There's a famous quote, what if I train my people and they leave? And the answer to that is, well, what if I don't train them and they stay? I think that's Richard Branson that said that. It took me a minute to get his name. Just going to open up this last piece here under discussion 4 resources. Let's bring that up here. What does Scrum tell us to do? What are the Scrum values? Anybody? What if we found some of these in the Scrum framework, the Scrum values, in the Agile Manifesto values? What if you went back and highlighted what your company values are and made sure you started to live them? Maybe even adjust them. Do you have company values that align to valuing people, living by values, and delivering value, and what they mean? And if you don't, maybe one side of your triangle corporately is short. Another fun one, and we don't have to do it today, is to play this game, pull out the Agile Manifesto. So I'm just step back a second. I like to use this for retrospectives. We can ask people about how they feel valued, how they feel we're delivering value, make sure they understand it. You can do some alignment with your product goals here. It's a really good test, and it really gets your Scrum teams talking in a very, very different manner. So I have used this for training. I've also used this for retrospectives so that they get a bit of training in there as well. So I think we hit on a lot of the Scrum values: courage, focus, openness, respect, commitment. You know, the Agile Manifesto values and your own company values. So I'm going to invite you I'm going to leave the mural, and I'm going to come back to the slide deck. But I'm going to invite you. We're going to take some screenshots and send them out to you. But I invite you to use this as a model if you found it of value to you, to go out and have some of those discussions. And we'll send everything out to you. But you can do your own Post-it notes, see what the values are within your organization. And it's quite fun if you do it on a nice big whiteboard and a sticky board. So if we can switch back to the, so we introduced the value exponential. Let's go to the next slide. So we dug in, sorry, that I gave you the mural link. So a couple of takeaways for you, because eventually you're going to, the triangle is the first step. Eventually you've got to tie it back into metrics. For anybody that hasn't already taken it, and I took mine through Improving, there's a study guide. You don't have to take a course, but go to scrum.org and grab the PAL EBM guide. And this particular picture comes straight out of that. So that's where it's from. And it basically puts metrics around 4 quadrants around business value. So we can look at, we can measure unrealized value in the market. We can measure current value in the market, how we're perceived in the market. We can look at the organizational capacity. How well are we innovating? And the other one is, how fast are we to market? Those are some good measures of key value areas. And if you open up that PAL EBM, for every one of those quadrants, there are at least a half a dozen things that you can start to measure. But the first step is to get your people to identify them. Can I have the next slide, please? So I'm going to do a little plug for Don McGreal and Ralph Jochum here. They wrote a book called The Professional Product Owner. And in it, they have this beautiful, I call it the onion diagram. And basically, the inside, you'll see daily plan. That's really your daily scrum, your sprint goal. But if we don't know what the product goal is above that and the product strategy, and we don't know how that aligns to the business goals, you're going to find that your people don't feel very valued. They feel like they're chasing their tails, that there's too much work chasing too few people when we can't draw a line up from their daily work right through to the corporate strategy and plan and goals. So a lot of detail on this in The Professional Product Owner, and a book that I highly, highly recommend. Going to ask you to take me to the last slide. I think this is the last slide. So closing. Yeah, things got really funky on these slides. So first of all, I'll open the floor to questions, and I hope you enjoyed it. And the key takeaway is have those conversations around value. Questions, comments, suggestions?
Questions in the room? Questions online?
I've stunned you all into silence.
Comments or reflections, how you could use this with your team?
I have a question. If you're going to have a conversation about value with a newly formed Scrum team, let's say, how would you approach it without making them feel a little bit uneasy with the concept of value delivery? Because obviously we bring together teams to build a working product that will solve some need, problem, or business proposition. So how do you open the door for that conversation on value?
So I'm going to say I wouldn't do it with a brand new team. I think there's other areas to focus on earlier. There are other things I like to use as a retrospective. The desert island. What's the fruit? What's the good stuff? And because I want to keep those ones very positive, I would more use this with a more mature team. But I do tend to start, if you want some homework, go home and watch City Slickers, where they're talking about one thing. And so very often I start with my product owners and the product side to say, what's the most important thing for us to deliver? We can only if we're only delivering one thing, what's it going to be? And let's focus on that and understand the value in delivering that. Is it reducing risk? Why is this the most important item to deliver if we're delivering value? Because it's comparative value, right? It's just like relative sizing. Is this a penny, or is this a big gold piece, or is this a whole chest of gold? That this one's going to deliver for us, and that's how we prioritize. So hopefully it'll follow some other discussions around delivering value. I would also point out that in new teams, in my observation, there tends to be too much work chasing too few people. So when you start to focus, I see some nods there. The lady in the front there, yes. So very often you can start to get some buy-in with new teams that are maybe a little bit reluctant around Scrum in particular, or any form of Agile, that to find the what's in it for them. And if they can see that you're going to not have these constant interruptions and demands and an unreasonable amount of work by focusing on what delivers the most value, then you'll have a WIFM for them. That's for darn sure.
The only reason,
Right?
sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I ask this question is because when we are planning the sprint and we want to have the sprint backlog, I guess we have to guide the team to focus on the most value as well, based on the input of the product owner. So an early introduction of that concept might be beneficial, but I'll take your point. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I really like to start with the product. When I'm a Scrum Master or acting as an Agile coach, I really like to start with my product owners. Yeah. When I get a brand new product owner in, the first thing I say is, all I want you to learn this week is that you are the value maximizer. And when I introduce you and say, tell me about your role, and just, I want to hear, I don't care what else you say, but I want to hear, I'm here to maximize the value that this team delivers. And I do that by ordering the product backlog. And when it starts to be a running joke with my product owners, and we still laugh about it.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was curious that in the overall value triangle, why do you see product? Because we're talking about delivering value, but we did not really talk about product.
So I would see the product under delivering value. I think a lot of the descriptions in the word cloud that we did on what value meant, we're speaking towards a product. A product solves a problem, a product speed things up. So a lot of the descriptors in there about value are referring to the product.
Okay.
So the product, I guess I would say the product is how you deliver value. Right? If you don't deliver a product, and this is again a challenge with a lot of Scrum teams, is that they don't want to release. And if you don't release, there's no value, right? So you have to release in order to, so that's how you grow the sides. You release more frequently so you can get the feedback and you can grow the product and make it better. Good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? I will apologize again for the slides. I will fix that for the next time around.